All right, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Florida Physique Report on floridaphysique.com. I'm your host, John Hansen, and we are broadcasting live from the Powerhouse Gym in downtown Tampa, Florida. On today's show, we are going to have a special interview with John Puskarich. John was the winner of last week's Panhandle Showdown, which took place in the Panhandle, of course. And John also won the Renegade Classic earlier in the year. That was actually the first contest of the 2015 season. So John is a 49-year-old natural bodybuilder. He is competing in non-tested shows. He does very, very well. And he will be competing in my competition that I'm promoting on May 30th, the NPC Natural Suncoast Classic out in Tampa, Florida. So we got a great interview coming up with John Puskarich. I want to go over the results of last week's competition. Unfortunately, with the Panhandle Showdown, the promoter of that contest did not give me the results of the show, and I was not able to get any pictures of the show. So we don't have any results of the Panhandle Showdown, although we do have an interview coming up with John Puskarich, who was the light heavyweight winner in that competition. But I do have the results of the 2015 Orlando Metro, which took place in Winter Springs, Florida, just outside of Orlando. Sean Maloney is the promoter of that contest. Last year it was actually held in July, I think over the July 4th weekend, so they moved it up quite a few months this year. And it was a very good competition. I was there for the show. I was able to do some contest interviews. If you check out floridaphysique.com, you'll see we have about 6 or 7 different interviews with the winners of that contest. So let's go over the results real quick. We'll start with the Bikini Open. Class A, Carol Leonard was the winner. Carol has been competing quite often over the last year. She did very well last year, and she looked much improved this year. She got first place in the Class A. Shannon Munn was the winner in Class B. And then Class C went to Maureen O'Brien. And then the overall winner went to Shannon Munn. And we did a great interview with Shannon after the contest. It was actually her first overall win. She works with Jamie Iboni, so she's starting off the year right, and she's looking forward to some more competitions. She'll be competing in the Europa, as will Carol in a couple weeks. In the Masters Bikini, Cheryl Munn also won the over 35, with Carol Leonard taking second and Ella Kapoor taking third. All right, then we go into the Figure Open. Elena Nealon won Class A, and Kimberly Reed won Class B, and then the Figure Open overall winner was Kimberly Reed. We did an interview with Kimberly after the show, and she had always competed in bikini, and she switched over this year to figure, and it was a great move. She put on some really good muscle over the off season, and she looked great on stage. Kimberly also won the Masters Figure over 30, and Anelia Little won the over 40 contest. Women's Physique, again, only one competitor. I don't know what's going on with Women's Physiques this year. Not too many competitors in Women's Physique. We've only had like one competitor in Women's Physique in the last 4 or 5 shows I've seen. Amelia McQuaid was the winner in Women's Physique this time. In the men's bodybuilding, we start off with the Masters. Louis Blas won first place in the over 60. I think we've seen Louis compete a couple times this year already down south in the Miami area. Ray Clark was the winner in the over 50 division, and then Otis Britt won the over 40, and then in the overall, Otis Britt was the winner. In the men's bodybuilding open, they did not have a lightweight class, but the middleweight class was won by Otis Britt again, and the light heavyweight class went to Michael DiStefano. Michael also won the novice bodybuilding category. And the heavyweight class was won by Dan Swart, with Chase Chandler in second and George Jerez in third. And I got to mention George because he had a great posing routine at night. He had a real classical type posing routine that we used to see in the 1970s and 1980s. And Pete Fancher even complimented him after the show on what a great routine it was. George has got some great arms. He just needs to come in a little bit harder. I think if he would have came in harder, he would have been a good shot for the overall. We're going to try and get George in the Powerhouse Gym out here and do a training video with him. But the men's bodybuilding open overall this time went to Otis Britt. Otis, the middleweight winner, 46 years old, I believe, has a great future in Masters bodybuilding. He's pretty new to competition, but he's got a really good physique, good thickness, and good conditioning. He just needs to come in a little bit harder for the national level, but he looks good. Like I said, novice bodybuilding went to Michael DiStefano. He was the only competitor there. And the men's physique open, the Class A went to Antonio Roman. Class B went to Roman Tillman, and then Class C went to Juan Rodriguez, with Juan Rodriguez winning the overall. And we got an interview with Juan on floridaphysique.com. And the men's physique masters, the over 40 class went to Fred Schultz, with Richard Cameron in second place. So that was the result of the Orlando Metro. Very good show. Thanks to Sean Maloney for inviting us to the contest and putting on a really good show. This weekend we've got two big competitions. The Miami Muscle Beach, which is a Pro-Am competition. It's promoted by Giovanni Paula. It's going to be in Miami Beach, of course. It's a national qualifier. I know there's going to be a lot of competitors in that show. It's from the Florida area, especially in the IFBB division. We just did an interview with Beth Transu, who won the Bikini Masters at the Battle on the Beach last month, and she will be competing in that show as well. So it's going to be a really good show. I know Dan Esslinger's got a big team of people going to that contest, and Dan is going to be covering the show for us next week on the Florida Physique Report. So he's going to give us a report of that, and I think Mike Sansevero is going to be supplying the pictures. Also this weekend on the 18th is the Galaxy, which is a non-qualifier. That's going to be taking place in St. Augustine. Gene Schlossberg is the promoter of that, and Michael Matassa and his wife Bernadette will be at that contest, and they will be giving us a report. So we got two reports coming up next week from Michael and Bernadette Matassa, and also from Dan Esslinger, who's going to report on the Miami Muscle. So that's it for the Florida Physique Report. We're going to hear from our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by John Puskarich, and he's going to tell us his secrets for being a successful natural bodybuilder at 49 years old. So we're going to talk to John right after the break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Florida Physique Report, and my special guest this week is John Puskarich, who just won the Panhandle Showdown over the weekend out in Pensacola. How you doing, John?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you this evening?
I'm good. Well, congratulations, John. This was, I believe, your second win, right, this year? Because you were in the Renegade Classic?
Yes, and you guys covered the Dan Esslinger. How do you say Dan's last name?
Esslinger.
Yeah, he covered the Tim Gardner, Mike McKinney's Renegade show, and I had won the over 40 and the open light heavyweight there.
Right.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your career, John. I know you've been competing a long time. You've been at this game a long time. I think you said you started in 1990, right?
Yes, 1990. I'll be 49 at the end of this year.
Okay.
I've been doing it a long time, almost as long as you. Not quite. So I've been competing for a long time. I've done well over 100 shows, and I can honestly say, people like, I've already into my third show already with the Panhandle, and I plan on coming down your way on May 30th for the Suncoast.
Yeah,
so
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, so it'll be my sixth show. So people will say, how do you compete so often? And the answer is, it's a lifestyle for me. I just enjoy training. I enjoy being healthy, and I find it very, very, I don't want to say easy, but it works into my schedule. So I've been very continuous for the last 25 years as far as bodybuilding competitions. Yes.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about your training, John, because I know you're a natural bodybuilder, and you compete in non-tested shows.
Yes.
You do very well. You win overalls, and I mean, this is a great accomplishment for someone who's almost 50 years old. You're a natural bodybuilder, and you're competing in non-tested shows and winning overalls. So tell us a little bit about your training. What kind of training do you do in the off season, and also when you're getting ready for a contest?
Okay. I got to say, the biggest thing is the off season to pre-contest. There's not very much different as far as the weight gain. I put on maybe 12 to 15 pounds, so I stay in contest shape year round. And like I said, the competitions, though I compete frequently, those are just markers, so to speak. They keep me accountable, and I use them just to make sure that I live a healthy lifestyle. The common denominator with my training, whether pre-contest or quote off-season, is I train very intense. So whatever my definition of intense is, what I've learned after 25 years of competing is this: the least amount of sets needed to tear a muscle down. If today was leg day, and I went in there and we were doing squats. And my idea is when I do squats, I'm not saving up for the stiff-legged deadlifts. I'm not saving up for my calves. I go as hard as I can. And if I have any energy or anything left in the tank, I'll go ahead to the next exercise. And that's been serving me well. My body, I know you're a little older than I am. I must point that out. But our body does not recover as fast as when it was 20 years old. As much as I like to think it does, that's why I think nutrition and rest is extremely important. So to answer your question directly, I train probably 45 minutes to an hour, and I train probably every other day. So I'm getting in 3-4 hours a week max. Okay. I try to work as hard as I can, but on the other side of that, I'm doing touch-up, John, trying to, get my arms bigger, get my shoulders a little wider. Because people say, well, John, I see you doing something every day. And yes, I am doing something every day. But as far as what you're asking me, tearing down the muscles to get bigger, stronger, I'm doing about 3-4 workouts a week.
Okay. So, John, compare your physique now at 49 years old to when you were younger, like 20 years ago. How do you feel like your body's matured?
It's really interesting. I wish you'd have asked that earlier, because I have a photo of my first competition, and I gotta be honest with you, structurally, I look exactly the same. Wow. Okay. Yeah, and now obviously over the years, much more separation and much more hardness and all the things that come with years and decades of doing this, but this, your genetic structure, your muscle insertion and origin, it's not going to change, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so what I've done as a bodybuilder all these years is try to maximize my genetic potential. I know where my strengths are, I know where my weaknesses are, and I'm sure we'll touch base on this here in a little bit. And also, I don't want to say that I've mastered, there's no such thing as mastering the sport, but I take a personal interest on being the best presenter on stage. And I gotta tell you, at this last show, the Panhandle show is probably the top show in my area up here. Some amazing competitors, I'm watching these guys getting called out 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd. I'm looking at them going, they look amazing, and they call me out to win, and these guys are just much bigger than I am. And when I look at the photos, I'll present them. I can't control who's going to show up that day, John, but I can control my body on stage. So I spend a lot of time doing presentation work.
Okay, so when you say I'll present them, John, you're basically saying that you hit the poses better and you make your body look better in those poses than these other guys do.
And you've done enough of these shows. People will walk in and they're just larger than life. But it's interesting. In the gym, guys are doing the cable crossovers, and their chest muscles are just firing. They're doing the thigh extension, and you can see every muscle in their thigh. But they can't do that on stage.
Right.
It's just like, you don't have those apparatuses on stage. And I see so many people the last, 7, 10, 14 days before a show, they're grinding out the machines. But as soon as you ask them to strike a pose, they can't make the muscles pop.
Right.
So I learned a long time ago, it's like, I can't take any of those apparatuses on the stage with me. So I rely on myself to make the muscles pop. I'm big time into isometrics, just getting in crazy contorted positions to make the muscles pop. So that is a quote, a secret. I mean, it's obvious, but it's not as obvious as you would think for a lot of bodybuilders. But I spend a lot of time working on presenting the muscle that I've built after all these years.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I've seen bodybuilders through the ages like Frank Zane, Mohammed McAway, Lee Labrada. These guys, they weren't the biggest guys. And, I was actually lucky enough to see Frank Zane win all of his 3 Olympia wins.
Wow, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I see this stuff on the internet where people are saying, how did he ever win? He looks like a swimmer. And I'm like, well, you weren't there. And when the guy is on stage, he presents himself so well.
Yes.
that he looks like the winner. And I think he deserved to win every one of those titles.
Yes, yes, I totally agree with you because even myself, like I said, I go to these big shows and being a natural bodybuilder, I weigh the same now, talking about how my body has transformed over 25 years. I pretty much compete, I started competing at 177, 178, and I compete now at 182 to 180 range. So I've not gained much weight after all these years, but my body looks totally different. And whenever you apply correct posing techniques on stage, it makes you look larger than life. Because sometimes you look at the photo, but when you're there, the way they're smashing their arms against their lats or their legs against the backside leg, it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to be said about that.
So what advice would you give, John, for people out there, the bodybuilders that are out there and they're listening to this interview and they want to learn how to present their body better? How did you do it? Was it taking pictures? Was it just practicing?
It's funny because, great question. Today at my gym, I'm sure there's gyms around the world where people just look amazing. The number one thing people want to say, well, I need to get bigger. That's the number one thing. Well, when I get good, I'll get up there. I'm like, if I would have that mentality, I still wouldn't be on stage. You know what I mean? We're never there. Even you and I, like, okay, and I know that's just the nature of the beast. I will say this, at my home and my setup, I have mirrors everywhere. I get those little clamp lights. You can buy them at Walmart, turn off the lights, and it makes it look like you're on stage. Everybody can sit there and just flex their bicep, but when they turn around to do a rear double bi pose, you can't feel all the muscles in your back. So my advice to people who might be watching this and thinking, you know what, I'm really thinking about doing a competition, have somebody take a photo of you from 4 quarter turns. Because when my clients join, I've been a trainer for 25 years, when I actually take pictures from the side and the rear, they're not used to seeing themselves that way.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think, for anyone that's interested in getting in physique competition, get a true assessment of where you are. And also to priority training, John. And today was International Chest Day. For me, me and my partner were doing legs today.
Right.
We had the whole squat rack to ourselves. No one messing with us. Do priority training. I mean, if your arms or and neck are the same size and your calves half the diameter, you might want to focus on your calves. So I really, really look at my physique, or even the people that I may help, and look at them and say, let's just go ahead and put your bicep day to the back burner. Let's put the hamstrings and calves up. So honestly, assess your physique and start training your body in a way that will facilitate balance and symmetry.
Okay. Let's talk about your nutrition, John, because as you said, as you get older, your body changes. And
yes.
I know when I was younger, I had a hard time gaining weight, and then after you get to a certain age, it's like
you can't keep it off.
You can't get rid of it, right? So do you stay lean all the time now? Because I know you compete a lot. You do a lot of shows every year.
Yes, and that's something, I think, I observe it right now as we speak. Guys will come with me and do a show. They'll gain 40 to 50 pounds over the off season, and they are scrambling to get the weight off. Yeah. And a lot of them are just trying to get back to where they were at the last show. I've graduated to an extremely healthy diet. I'm the type of person if it sounds right, I'll go ahead and listen to that and apply it to my life. And then if it works for me, I'll go ahead and hold that information and use it. And if it doesn't, then I just put it aside. But I can honestly say, if you were to ask me, and not knocking supplements and all that, they have their place. Vitamins and proteins and all the stuff out there.
Right.
But my thought process is, if God made that on Earth and it's out there, it's going to be much better for my body than any supplement. So to answer your question directly, I'm a big proponent of whole food. I'd rather get my vitamins and all my nutrients from real food, fruits and vegetables and lean meats, than to take them all through supplements or drinks. Obviously in a busy day, you got to have your protein shakes or whatever it is that you need to take. But I don't cut my fat. I keep my fat rather high. And I don't, I keep all my nutrients in, John. I don't eliminate my carbs. I don't eliminate my sodium. I don't eliminate my fat. And I found a nice balance. At the end of the day, John, I think most people get into this sport because they want to look and feel better about themselves. And I think somewhere along the way, we kind of lose sight of the objective, and we're going after a very small focus on bodybuilding competition and losing our health along the way. And I think that sometimes, we just need to reel ourselves back in and remind ourselves why we are doing this.
Yeah, exactly. So talk about continuing that discussion a little further, going into the contest and contest prep. You said you don't take anything away. Is that the same thing when you're peaking for a show, that last week before a contest?
Well, in my opinion, this is just all my personal opinion, is if you have done a correct pre-contest protocol, for the last 7 to 10 days, you should just be squeezing and posing and just trying to really wring out the muscle definition. I see a lot of people in the last 7 days, John, they're doing cardio morning, noon, and night because they're behind the 8 ball.
Mm-hmm.
And so my advice to anybody getting ready for a show, if you're not ready to compete the last, say, 2 weeks before a show, for me, I'd rather myself or a client the last 2 weeks for a show actually keep increasing their calories and carbs and whatnot, and no cardio, and just keep getting harder and harder, opposed to trying to, they have a date, and the show was April 11th. The Panhandle was April 11th.
Mm-hmm.
I was ready for that. Well, I was ready for that show weeks and weeks ahead of time. So my pre-contest is effortless, John, meaning that there's no stress. I know I look good. I know I feel good. So I don't make too many drastic changes the last week of the show. What has gotten me there looking good is what I'll continue to do up until the show.
What about water and sodium and all that stuff, John? Do you deplete all that?
No, you know what? I don't deplete any water, and I was at the show, like I said, no, I don't know the coaches or whatnot, but there were athletes that went the whole day, even up until the evening show, that did not have a sip of water,
right?
And, I don't know what they had done to get to that point, and, I don't judge that, but I just couldn't imagine, on a day of prejudging and not drinking any water and stuff like that. So I know what's worked for me is if I'm healthy year-round and I'm training hard and, I'm drinking a lot of water and I don't carry much body fat, I don't need to eliminate my water. And as a matter of fact, I'm actually using sea salt. I'm adding it to my foods because I don't eat any processed food, John. So the last week, I'm literally adding my sea salt to my fruit, not my fruit, to my vegetables, to my meats, and my eggs and stuff like that. So no, I don't deplete anything the last, and to be honest with you, I have a show coming up May 16th here in Panama City Beach. I'm doing the Tim Gardner, Mike McKinney's NPC Riptide show.
Mm-hmm.
I pretty much could step on stage right now, and so what's great about it is, I'm eating 300-400 grams of carbs every day, and because I'm so lean, I should feel guilty for having such an effortless, but I don't,
right?
Because I live a lifestyle in the off season that allows me to be this way, and that's how I can do 6, 8, 10 shows a year.
Yeah.
Because it's just it's a lifestyle for me, John.
Yeah. So let's talk about the show last weekend, John, the Panhandle Showdown.
Yes.
And
yes.
You won the Masters, I believe, right? And the
light
heavy.
I won the Masters over 40. And I also had won the men's open light heavyweight. Russ Macy's a promoter out there, and like I mentioned earlier, it's a phenomenal show. We had at least a couple hundred athletes out there, and a beautiful venue. We had a sold-out auditorium. I made it to the overall in the open class, and a young man named, I hope I don't mispronounce these gentlemen's name, Caleb Weatherington. Caleb. The guy was a big guy, had great structure, was very hard, posed very, very well. He was the overall winner. My favorite bodybuilder was probably the middleweight. I think his name was Nicholas Austin. I had just Facebook friend him. And I sent you the overall pose down, correct?
Yeah.
Check out the middleweight. He was just short, full, round muscle bellies.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a toss up between him and the overall winner. I was in the mix, and presented well. But props to Russell Macy, the judging panel, and all the athletes that got on stage. And like I said, it was a great evening for sure.
Okay. How do you compare your condition at that show, John, with the Renegade that was about a month ago?
You know what, to be honest with you, I think that's what got me in first place because, the guys, with much respect to the guys that placed behind me, and a keynote gentleman I want to point out is also Raymond Smith. He was the gentleman, Dan mentioned my close competition up in the Renegade was Raymond. We were in the over 40 together and the open light heavyweight. He was my in competition again. And I show him much respect. He has a great symmetrical physique, and I think he would agree with me if he watches this. I think I outpresent him, you know, and I'm lucky to do so because this guy has a great physique, and he's somebody, if he would, you know, get his posing on, he'd be tough to beat. So I thought my conditioning was actually my conditioning was better, and by the time I hit the Riptide and finish up my spring tour at the Suncoast Classic, I'm going to be ready. So I'm planning on debuting my best body every show between here and May 30th.
Okay, great. John, how much time do you spend on your posing routine when you get ready for a show?
You know, I do something every day year-round, but pre-contest, I do. People are going to be, wow. I get up about 3:30 every morning, and that's why as soon as we get done, I will be going to bed really. You got me up past my bedtime.
Yeah.
But I get up about 3:30, have my coffee, and do my emails and whatnot, and I will pose. I have my mirrors and stuff, and I want to give the viewers a little tip. This is the best tip I've come up with. Everybody has a phone, and what I'll do is I'll actually call the quarter turns, and as I call them out, I will make notes. Pull your stomach in, backside chest, chin neutral, flex the calves, and grab the glutes. And I do that every morning, and I got to tell you, that's the best tip I can come up with because, you know, when you're doing your quarter turns and stuff like that, and I do it in such a way that I try to simulate a live prejudging, and I do that every morning without fail. And you know, the striations in my glutes and everything. People are like, you know, how do you get your glutes striated? It's just, well, I do it a lot, you know. So to answer your question, about an hour and a half every morning.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and all of it. That's my yoga and meditation.
Yeah. Well, John, I think you're a real credit to the sport. I would keep going at your age, and you know, not that you're old, but you know, to be doing it this long and to be doing it successfully and being a natural bodybuilder, getting up at 3:30 in the morning and doing your posing. I mean, that's awesome. You know.
Well, you know, one of my dreams now, because I know you had won the. Was that last year? When did you win your Natural Olympia Games? That was last year or 2 years ago?
It was the Universe. It was we're going on 3 years now. It was 2012. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you know my goal when I get that 50 mark. I'm trying to go and come out there and see if I can get up on stage with
all right.
guys. So, but and I say the same for you. Thank you for the Florida Physique Report.com, and you know, just keeping everybody here in Florida, and you know, so thank you very much. And I know we the athletes really appreciate the time and effort that you put to put Florida bodybuilding out there, you know, in the world.
All right, thank you, John. Well, I'm really looking forward to having you come out to the Natural Suncoast Classic, which is my competition on May 30th in Tampa.
Yes.
And it'll be an honor to have you as a competitor in my contest, and I'm really looking forward to having you there, John.
Okay, thank you so much, and we'll look forward to seeing you.
All right, buddy. Well, congratulations on your win, and thanks for joining us with the Florida Physique Report. All right, that's it for the Florida Physique Report this week. Thank you for joining us. Next week, as we said, we're going to have results and report of the IFBB NPC Miami Muscle Beach, which is going to take place this weekend in Miami Beach. Dan Esslinger will be reporting on that show, and we will have pictures by Mike Sansevero. And we're also going to get a report on the NPC Galaxy, which is taking place this weekend in St. Augustine. Mike and Bernadette Matassa are going to be joining us for a report on that show. And we'll try and come up with some more guests. You never know who's going to be here. So we'll see you next week on the Florida Physique Report. Take care, everybody.